When you ask most people what they know about the nuclear industry, they may mention that it mines uranium and produces nuclear weapons. They may even know that nuclear power is used to generate electricity. What people often don't know is that it also generates radioactive waste that's dangerous for hundreds and thousands of years. Waste that at this stage cannot be stored nor disposed of safely. This video outlines one of Australia's and the world's biggest environmental problems. What do we do with our radioactive waste?
The government wants to build a radioactive waste dump in South Australia. Lower level wastes will be buried in trenches and backfilled with rammed earth or concrete. Burial of waste can contaminate groundwater. Some communities rely on groundwater for their daily needs. Plants and animals may breach the trenches, or wind erosion could spread radioactive particles. Some wastes are toxic for thousands or even millions of years, but the government will only look after the dump for 100 years. Later, higher level wastes will be stored at the dump, then buried in a deep geological disposal. This method has been scientifically proven to be unsafe. No waste in the first place. No radioactive dumps. The government believes it's impossible to have an accident transporting radioactive waste. In reality, there have been hundreds of reported transport accidents involving radioactive waste. Many of these accidents have meant that radioactive materials have been released into the environment. The National Radioactive Dump will be in remote South Australia. This means that wastes must be transported over long distances. Communities en route will be at risk of radioactive exposure. Neither private insurers nor the government will indemnify you against nuclear accidents. Radioactive waste should stay where they're made or used. Nuclear transport, risky business, no insurance.
Before we can make a decision about the best way to manage Australia's radioactive waste, we have to stop producing it in the first place. Australia creates radioactive waste from uranium mining and the Lucas Heights reactor in Sydney.
The Sydney reactor produces 85% of all radioactive wastes, excluding uranium mine tailings. The new reactor will produce wastes for another 40 years. There is no credible waste management plan, yet the government has approved a new reactor anyway. Nuclear reactors are dangerous because of the toxic waste they produce and the risks of nuclear accidents. Even under normal conditions, the reactor emits radioactive gases into the air and liquids into the sewage. The reactor has had several reported accidents. Nuclear reactors, unnecessary and unwanted.
The waste produced by the nuclear industry are dangerous because they emit radiation. Radiation is harmful to the health of both people and the environment.
There are three main types of ionising radiation: alpha, beta and gamma. Alpha radiation cannot pass through our skin, but when swallowed or breathed in can be very dangerous. Beta particles can penetrate into our body, and gamma radiation can pass right through. Radiation can damage our cell tissue and our DNA. This can cause fatal diseases such as cancer. If reproductive organs are irradiated, damaged genes may pass on to our children, causing birth defects. Radiation. Every dose is an increased risk. What are you prepared to accept? Radioactive waste is toxic for tens of thousands of years. This is why the nuclear industry should be phased out. You can't dispose of radioactive waste. If you chuck it away, then it will endanger generations to come. It must be guarded and cared for. Radioactive waste should be kept above ground, on the site of production, dry, close to experts, retrievable, and secure. And we must devote resources for sustainable waste management over many generations. Guarding waste, caring for the future.
We do have choices. There are many alternatives to nuclear technology. Overseas, countries such as Germany and Sweden are stepping away from nuclear electricity and turning to solar power. Australia doesn't use nuclear electricity, nor do we need a reactor to produce medical isotopes.
The government says a new reactor is needed to make isotopes for medicine and research. There are safer ways that don't produce highly radioactive waste, using cyclotrons and spallation beam technology. Many countries, like Japan and the United States, import their medical isotopes. It's much cheaper to buy them than building a new reactor. The government says that we need the reactor to keep our expertise in nuclear technology and to help with nuclear weapons disarmament. But it's cheaper to train experts overseas where nuclear technology is more sophisticated. Also, it's better to promote disarmament through diplomatic means. Good medicine, not reactors.
To stop Australia's nuclear industry, we need to let the government know how we feel. By working together, we can make Australia nuclear-free.
Safeguarding our health and environment often comes down to community action. Forming a group is the first step. Your group can distribute information locally and plan other campaign actions. The group can gain support from other community organisations, local government and local businesses. You should voice your concern or objections at government decision-making processes that will affect you. There are many groups and organisations campaigning for a nuclear-free future. We invite your community to join with us to help make Australia nuclear-free. Better active today than radioactive tomorrow.
Australia is at the nuclear crossroads. We can continue to produce radioactive waste that endangers the environment and future generations, or we can choose to deal with the waste we've created responsibly and stop producing any more. A nuclear-free future? The choice is ours.